Well, hello. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another Frame Drop live stream brought to you by V1 Simulations. Myself, good to see you guys here today. It has been a challenge trying to find some time to get to you guys and get some content out for you. And I say challenge mostly because the times that I do have available to stream, the internet's just peak times, and so I try to pick these non-peak times. But we're going to do our best today. We got a little fun. I got a fun, I don't know if it's fun, but a new method here that we're going to go about on the channel until I can get that Starlink. So basically what's going to happen is the frame drops, if we have less than 15% frame drops, we're just going to continue the stream as planned. Anything between 15 and 25% frame drop, that's when you guys really start to notice the, a freeze every, 10, 30, between 10 and 30 seconds. We're going to do an in-flight diversion. That way it keeps it short. Nobody wants to see that. Plus, it keeps me on my toes. You guys keep learning. And if we have anything over 25% frame drop, basically from the start of the stream, we're going to do an immediate air return, which is something that I don't think I've ever done live, other than that one time we were in Cancun. We had to come back around. So those are kind of the new parameters we're going to be live streaming with here until I can get that Starlink here in North Texas. Guys, what is going on? Glad to see everybody here in the chat. Dougal McTavish, good to see you here. Dimitri, wow, must be earlier for you, man. It's early here, 10 o'clock. It must be, what, 8 a.m. over there, 7 a.m.? Welcome aboard, Dimitri. Good to see you. Carter Jawol, Slam Cannon, Jeremy Harvey, Benny, Fubar. Man, good to see everybody. Rusty C, Anthony Anderson, what's going on, man? Good to see you here. Good to see everybody in the chat. So what we're going to be doing today is something that I feel like I always overlook, and especially in live events that, when I'm streaming to you guys, I end up just flipping switches and stuff. And I've done some kind of tutorials, of course, with the professional series and some edited videos. But there are things that we do in the cockpit that are, after you do them for years on end in real life, this just kind of becomes ingrained. So what I do on stream may seem kind of random to you. I'm really going to break down that it's not random and show you that we actually have a series of flow patterns and checks that are triggering events for me to do certain things in the cockpit. So at the very least, if you want to stop missing switches, or maybe you keep forgetting a certain part of your pre-flight setup or your taxi out, whatever, hopefully if you watch the stream and we have a good little setup here, you can kind of clip it and come back and see how each flow is performed. So let's go ahead and start that. Today we're in a lovely A319. Guys, this is still my favorite airplane on X-Plane. It still is. It's got, I think, one of the best BSS sound packs. IA engine mod is absolutely awesome. The 319 in real life is an absolute hot rod compared to the other two. I use the word hot rod lightly because it is still an Airbus, right? We're trolling the friendly skies in a bus. So with that being said, though, it is still a very, very fun airplane to fly, and I just can't get enough of it. Plus, this livery is, I think this has got to be my favorite 319 livery. Other than the old America West livery, I don't know, something about the short bird here with the gray pixel and the gray engines just looks absolute juice. Let's get this thing let's get the show on the road here, right? So we are completely cold and dark, and the first thing that's going to happen when you get to the aircraft is typically it's going to be both crew members arrive at the same time. Sometimes you don't, though. If it's the first flight out of a base, you got, maybe somebody who lives in base is going to get there a little bit early, someone commuting in. So it's designated as the first person that arrives at the aircraft. We got to check for a couple things. First, when you're walking down to the jet bridge, you're going to make sure the airplane is chalked. You want to see if there's ground air on the airplane. Those big yellow hoses that come from the jet bridge connect to the airplane. And you want to make sure the flaps and slats are in the up position. If they're not, there is potential reasons for those. The two most common reasons you will see a flap deployment at the gate. Number one, it's over 40 degrees Celsius. If it's over 40 degrees Celsius, we do not retract the flaps all the way to 0 after landing. That is because you can trigger a basically a bleed fault or an overheat in the wing. So the reason we leave the slats out, or flaps position 1, is it allows a little bit of ventilation there. The second most common reason that you would see flaps down at the gate is that there's maintenance. And if there's maintenance on the airplane, especially doing anything hydraulic with flaps or gear doors, you want to be extremely cautious that you don't accidentally pressurize any of the hydraulic systems and, God forbid, trap a mechanic in a wheel well, or trap someone's hand in a flap or something like that. So those are the two main reasons you're checking as soon as you get to the airplane. So that's something that I don't think I've ever talked about on this channel, but it's very critical that you check those as you walk down the jet bridge, get to the airplane. Gavin Cordell says a frame drop SOP. Gotta love it, man. Absolutely. Benny says your opening music reminds me of the Oshkosh Air Show. I love it, Benny. It's courtesy of Jeremy Harvey. He also said, did you see the update for the 321? Yes, I did see the update for the 321, man. I've been learning myself the FLS approaches or as SLS approach and FLOC, and it's pretty crazy stuff because we're actually getting that update on our aircraft in real life. So at this current time, I'm still in the learning process myself. You know, I've been getting memos about what is coming with the FMS2 update and the changes and all that. And here we go. Tolis is already dropping fresh, avionics updates to their Airbus A321, which is it's just going to be an awesome training tool for me in real life. So as I get a grip on that, I will obviously make some more videos for you. All right. So now that we're in the cockpit, we already checked the outside. Well, the first thing we're going to do is we got to do basically, I'm going to just do it from the left seat here because I'm comfortable doing it. Typically, if you both got to the airplane at the same time, the first officer will perform this flow. But this is the preliminary cockpit preparation flow. So when you get to the airplane, the first officer or the first person at the aircraft is going to perform this flow. And basically, we're making sure the aircraft is secured. So you ready? I'm going to go through it. I'm going to try to go not too fast. That way you can watch it back if you want to learn this yourself. But this is a real procedure from the Airbus SOP. So here we go. So first thing we're doing, we make sure the engine mode selector or engine masters 1 and 2 are off. The mode selector is in the normal position. You want to make sure that your weather radar is also off. You don't want to be pinging at the gate here. So with system 1 is off. Also just make sure that PWS is off as well. So that is off. Then we're going to jump up here to the landing gear lever, make sure that is in the down position. From there, we go straight up to the overhead. We want to make sure that the wipers are in the off position. From there, we're going to go to our batteries. From our batteries, we're checking for a voltage of 25.6 volts or greater. So if it's 25.5 or less, we have to do a charging procedure, which we don't need to do that today. We're at 27 and 28 volts. So we're going to go battery 1, verify that battery 2 off light illuminates, and battery 2. Let me make sure my sounds are nice and juicy. I think I have them turned way down here. Ranger Rick says, how early ahead of time typically would a pilot arrive before boarding would you start? Ranger, it's going to depend upon the size of the aircraft. So a 319 to 321, generally speaking, you can get boarded from 45 minutes prior. Now, that's going to be a company thing. You know, that could be different from, any company you go to. But about 45 minutes prior is the standard for the single aisle Airbus. A 319, you can obviously load a lot quicker than 45 minutes if you need to make sure everybody is doing what they got to be doing. There's not a lot of bags. 321 can be a little tight if it's fully loaded at 45 minutes, but again, as long as it's an empty airplane and you don't have to wait to deplane, that 45-minute prior you're good to go. So about 45 minutes, that's our show time. That's when we show up prior to the aircraft. All right, so our batteries are on. Let's go ahead and get power to the aircraft. That's the next thing. Batteries on. And we're going to go ahead and get the external power push button on. At this point, the aircraft is going to begin to do its self-test. You hear the fans going. And since I'm sitting in the left seat, but I'm simulating being, I guess, Phantom 320 here, I'm just going to brighten up his screens. And then I'm going to brighten up the PFD and ND, because this is kind of what would happen here. The captain's say I'm not here yet, so he's gonna sit down, he's loading up his stuff. If he was nice, he would load up mine, but my brightness is actually in my own flow, which we're going to get to next. So we're still going through the first officer flow. He's established electrical power to the aircraft. And yes, you want to make sure, it's important to check the wipers are off, Dream List, because if for instance, maybe somebody accidentally bumped it and left it on, as soon as you apply electrical power to the airplane, they're going to start wiping at the gate, and you don't want to run a dry wiper on a dry windshield. Sounds like the doors are already closing up. I'm going to go ahead and manually open this one here. And let's manually open the cargo as well. All right, so we've got electrical power on the aircraft. From there, next thing we're going to do is we're going to check the Apu Fire Test. Now, you would also skip the external power if you didn't have external power available, and you would go straight to the Apu Fire Test, and then you would either turn the APU on if you didn't have external power. But since we do have external power, we're just doing the fire test. Then we're going to make sure the APU master switches are off in this situation here. From there, we're going to check the air conditioning panel. Everything looks good, basically checking for all white lights out. From there, we're going to go over to the cargo heat. If you have a cargo heat installed on your aircraft, make sure there's basically no white lights and everything is in lights out configuration. There's no abnormal switches or anything going like that. From the cargo heat panel, we're going to go down to the lower ECAM, and we're going to check a series of systems here. First thing we want to do is we want to hit the recall push button. Now this is a button that actually is functional in the TOLUS. It's a pretty cool button here. And what the recall does, if you don't know, if you're unfamiliar, it will recall the last fault that was cleared. So let's say you get a master caution in flight and you go through the procedure, you clear it out, and then as a captain, you got to write it up, right? And now I got to write up the fault, but I don't remember what it was, and we already cleared it from the ECAM. I press and hold this recall push button here, and it will bring up that last fault so I can see exactly what it is. When it says normal, that means there was no cleared faults. We have no hidden surprises, no Easter eggs, so that's good. From there, we're going to check the lower ECAM. We want to check the engine page. We want to make sure we have sufficient fluid in the engine. So oil is what we're looking for. From there, we want to make sure we check the hydraulic page. Make sure the hydraulics are all serviced and in the green. Now these are all slightly over serviced, but that looks good there. And then the pressurization page, just make sure it's in auto. That looks good. All right, so once we're done with the lower ECAM, checking the systems pages like that, we're going to come back down here, make sure the flaps are in the up position. And they should be in the up position because we looked outside and they were up when we came down the jet bridge, right? Make sure the parking brake handle is set. And we're going to check the emergency equipment and rain repellent. So the rain repellent is actually way back here in this bottle right here. So this is kind of a, I don't know, like a Rain-X solution that would be in here. I don't know why Nightbot timed you out there, Benny. I apologize, man. Let me get to you in a second here. But this is the rain repellent bottle, and the rain repellent would be used on this push button over here. So I'm sorry that you got pinned out. Benny says, I notice on the Airbus when on battery only, the display units always show dark. You have to apply GPU or APU to have them alive. Is that normal? Benny, yes, that is correct. When there is no primary source of electrical power to the aircraft other than the batteries, so you don't have an APU running or the external power running, you do not have your screens. And your APU fire test without the external power on is not even going to have a CRC. You're basically just looking for the lights in the fire push button here in the agent discharges. You're not going to get the CRC. You're not going to get master warning. You're not going to get any ECAMs because you don't have that power applied to the aircraft. So, good question, Benny, but that is true to real life and that is accurate. Jeremy Harvey says, when you go through your flows in real life, does it help to touch things to verify them visually? Absolutely, Jeremy, especially when you're trying to learn flows, you want to make sure you touch every single switch. And sometimes I will admit that I kind of like, if I look up and I see everything is already set, I'll kind of brush my hand in the motion of going up the panel. I don't actually touch every single one, but my next flow, which we're going to get to right now, I do make sure I touch every single switch. So you do want to try to at least put your hands where it's supposed to be, even if it's not necessarily on the switch, but you want to be moving in that direction. So after the first officer finishes rain repellent check and everything, he's headed outside. So Phantom 320 is outside. I'm coming down. I come down into the cockpit right here, and then before I get into the cockpit, there's actually, depending on who you work for, there's going to be a series of aircraft documents just outside the cockpit door. We'll have the aircraft registration certificate, the license, all that stuff for the airplane is going to be on the, depending on who you work for, really, it's going to be probably outside there where it's easily accessible and you can check it every single time you get in the airplane. You do want to make sure you're getting in a current aircraft. I don't know if you guys are in flight training right now. You probably heard the AeroPC acronym. I don't even know if I remember airworthiness, registration, radio operators, weight and balance, certificate. I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff. I'm sure you guys that are in training right now, or maybe Sam, I don't know if you hear anybody that's going through their training, they probably know that acronym. I've kind of forgot it, but you just want to make sure you're getting in a current aircraft. So that's my job. Come down, I check that. Then I take a seat here, and my first observation is I want to make sure all the cockpit lights are pretty much normal. I just take a kind of glance, make sure there's nothing glaring, and then I go right into my flow. And my flow is pretty simple. I'm basically going to start right on the overhead, and I'm going to go up each panel vertically. So we're going to start here at the gate. I'm going to start here. I don't even really start at the wiper because the wiper should already be checked off. I'm actually going to start right here. So my flow, crew supply auction comes on. Ground control, we're going to turn that on so we record the communications on the ground prior to engine start. From there, I will do a cockpit voice recorder test. To execute a CVR test, not simulated on the TOLUS, you will have to turn both loudspeakers off, place the intercom switch to the intercom position, make sure the volume is turned all the way down on the ACP, and press and hold the CVR push button. Now you can simulate this on the P3D Airbus. It does actually simulate the CVR test. You're just making sure that it is running. One key piece of information here doesn't really apply to the sim, but can really bite you in the butt. After you do the CVR test, your intercom is in the intercom position, which means the hot mic position. We're all familiar with rolling coal and, F this place and, grannies and grandes, all those hot mic incidences. Well, right now I'm sitting at a hot mic with the intercom on. So after I complete my CVR test, it is imperative that you come back down here and turn your intercom off. Because if you don't, and the ground crew is plugged in, the ground crew has their headset plugged in, and you get frustrated with the ground crew, or you get frustrated with something and you say some stuff that you shouldn't be saying, it's going to be displayed all over whoever's connected to the aircraft. So make sure you turn that intercom off after your CVR test. From there, I'm going to continue up the overhead panel. I got 2 fault lights here in the jip whiz. That is normal. Continue up here. I make sure the captain and purser evacuation switch is in the captain only. This is to make sure that the flight attendants don't accidentally or command an evacuation without the captain's authority, so I keep that in the captain position. From there, I go up to my aiders, and we're going to go ahead and just start our alignment phase. 1, 2, and 3. Wait for the on-bat lights to extinguish. I'll check the status. This really isn't modeled here, but then you can see the alignment time there from the aiders. All right, that panel's complete. From there, I drop down to the center panel. Nav logo lights, external lights. I'm going to go position 1 since I'm flying the aircraft today. I make sure everything else is off. From there, seatbelts off, no smoking off, emergency lights arm. From there, I jump right up here. Very important, landing elevation. Make sure that this is in the auto position for the flight. That is set. From there, we're going to jump up to the air conditioning panel. I don't know how many people we have on board today, but let's say we don't have that many. So we're going to go pack flow normal. I got 2 faults. Everything else is normal. It's pretty hot, so I'm going to turn the temperatures down a little bit. All right, from there I jump up to the electric panel, and this is when I perform my electrical battery test. So I come up here, and what we're looking for during the electrical battery test is I'm going to disconnect both batteries from the aircraft. It's being provided power by the external power, so it's okay to do this. And what I do is when I turn them back on, I want to verify that the amps are 60 amps or less and decreasing within 10 seconds. So I go battery 1 off, battery 2 off, and then put them right back on. And you would see BCLs extend here to the batteries. Right now that's a successful battery test, other than I don't have any of the line contactor lines showing a slight discharge back to the batteries. But other than that, that's a successful battery test. From there, I'll continue up here. I'm going to leave the fuel pumps off. We're still fueling. I'm going to do my engine fire test. Engine 2 fire test. I don't have to do the APU. Phantom already did it. Make sure the audio switching is in normal, way up there on the overhead. Third panel, very simple. I'm basically looking for a lights out configuration here. Everything is good. The third radio panel, make sure that is on, and the PA should be out and halfway on the volume. The reason for this being is that if there is an accident or incident during your flight, you want to make sure that the flight attendants' PAs and any cabin communication is recorded on the black box. So that is the reason we have the PA push button out here and on. And then we continue all the way up the panel here where you really got to stretch your neck. You want to make sure that the vent panel is checked, which is over here. I'm not going to discuss that for safety related issues. And then make sure that the hydraulics or the ground service panel or the maintenance panel, whatever you want to call it, is up here and in the lights out configuration. All right, from there, pretty simple. I come right back down here. I check my ISIS, make sure that is good. I check my clock, I check the date, that looks good. Make sure the nose wheel steering switch is in the on position, that is good. From there, I come down to the pedestal, and the pedestal is just like the overhead in reverse. I'm gonna get rid of that electric. 1, 2, and 3. So 1, I start here, turn my brightness up, right? That's my job, it's my panel. My brightness is up. Aircraft data, make sure you have the right engines on your airplane, make sure you got the right AIRAC cycle, make sure everything is good to go there. Turn on my audio, double check my intercom is off. Make sure everything else is just set here, off, make sure it's in calibrated. I'll probably put that in auto mode there, but make sure everything is off. Come down here, cockpit door, normal position. Start from the center, switching panel is off. From the switching panel, make sure the thrust levers are idle. Make sure the engine masters are off. Parking brake is set. Emergency gear extension lever is stowed. After that, that's pretty much it. From there, Phantom 320 comes back to the airplane. And when Phantom 320 comes back to the airplane and sits down, That is now my trigger to complete my final cockpit preparation. So we're both seated at the aircraft. I'm going to start here, make sure my seating position is correct. From the seating position, I start at the glare shield. I come right across the top here. We'll check and verify the ATIS. I know that can't be right because we're showing negative. Make sure that our QNH is set. FD's on or off depending on your alignment. I'm going to go ahead and turn them off right now. Constraint mode on. Set this however you want it. Should have dashes or ones and zeros here depending if we're in alignment phase, which we are. That's normal. From there, I come down and I start at the lateral console, which is way back here. I do my oxygen mask check. Come up here, verify my PFD and ND brightness. So this is when I would turn on my brightness here. Get my brightness, make sure my loudspeaker is set. Remember, I turned it all the way off for the cockpit voice recorder test, so now I'd probably turn it back up. Just monitor the ops frequency just in case anybody's talking to you and you're at the gate and they're calling you trying to get you know, hey, we got to change a fuel load or something. So I'll monitor the ops frequency here on the ground with the loudspeaker. Make sure my PFD and ND are looking good. From there, I come over to the ECAM. Another very important thing here, pressurization panel. I pull it up. Now I'm checking that landing elevation is in auto. So if you've been following along, I'm kind of going kind of fast here.
Donation.
And I'm gonna slow it down as we get going. I'll be more interactive in chat here. I just wanted to get through these initial flows. We've checked this landing elevation here, what, 3 times now, making sure it's in auto. Obviously, pressurization of the aircraft is very important. So make that sure that's in auto. That is good. And then I just go ahead and I check the status, normal. And after that, I'm done. We are ready to do our briefing and do our diff strip and set up the airplane. Let me get to the chat here, guys. Thank you for holding with me. I think that took probably, what, maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes to do all that. In real life, all those flows would be accomplished in less than a minute, probably. You know, it's real quick. You get in, boom, 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 boom. I'm doing my thing. By the time I'm done with my thing, Phantom 320 is back in the cockpit. I do my secondary flow, make sure that everything else is set up, and now we're ready to rock and roll. Rand Cool coming in with a $20 bomb. Let me hop outside here so we can look at some engines while we get back to the chat here for a second. Rand Cool, he says, Jack Daniels resupply. I learned how to fly the Flight Factor A320 from your Cold and Dark series. It was excellent, and thanks for your hard work, Rand. Rand Cool, thank you so much for that Jack Daniels resupply. I tell you what, my friend, I've been burning through that Jack Daniels here lately with these kids running around like banshees, but last night was a good night, man. We had some sleep, and everything's been good, and I really appreciate your support on the channel, Rand. You've been a long-time supporter. I truly do appreciate every single donation from everybody, and I do appreciate the length of, that's what I'm looking for, length of support. You know, I've been doing this for, what, almost 2 years now. We've been doing streams, and I see a lot of the same names from way back when I started, and you guys are still here, still passionate, still ready to learn, and that just, it's absolutely awesome to feel that kind of support. So thank you, Rand. Thank you for all the subscribes there. Let me get to some of the comments in chat here before we continue on. Captain Ontario says, when you get the IRS to align on the real bus, how long does it take? That will actually depend on where your geographic position is, Captain Ontario, believe it or not. It will depend on where your geographic position is. Generally speaking, 7 minutes. And I'm going to give you a general speaking here in the contiguous 48 states, about 7 minutes to align the IRS. Now, you can do a quick align. But the quick align would be done, you know, maybe if you're on the same airplane and you're doing a quick turn or you're doing a turn and your GPS position is a little bit out of sync, you just do a quick realign. But when you're starting flight or you're changing cruise, first time you get to an airplane, you're supposed to do a full alignment of the aircraft, so about 7 minutes. Jeremy Harvey says, how much of these flows would you have to do if you had just had a previous flight with the airplane or just received it from another crew? Jeremy, so again, good question, but that is also kind of dependent on what you just said there in your question. So we have what's called the through flight. So, you know, let's say you started your day, brand new airplane, you do all your flows, right? And then you do a turnaround, right? And so you go into a destination. A lot of it is skipped. Like that last flow that I did there, checking the glare shield, the seating position, the oxygen mask, that's all omitted on a through flight. So you're basically doing the changes at that point. So that's why we don't like plane swaps as crew members, because when you do a plane swap, it's basically starting over again, right? You got to do everything from the top. But when you're keeping the airplane, you do skip a lot of those redundant items. What joystick do I use? FS Aviation. I use the Thrustmaster Warthog. But guys, I will tell you this. I broke down, and I'll tell you why. I did get the... to try it out and give you guys my opinion, the what is it? The Thrustmaster Airbus Officer Pack thing should be here tomorrow. The main reason I'm not super excited about the joystick per se. I am more excited about the throttles or the thrust levers. The reason why I switched it is I actually had a slight muscle confusion situation because I've been doing a lot of flight simming and I got my thrust levers on the left side, and then when I got in the real airplane, I almost had a slight muscle confusion there with my right hand on the thrust levers on takeoff. I was like, what the, like I can't be doing that. So I think it's because I was flying a lot of X-plane and I hadn't been in the real airplane, and I just started conditioning my left hand to be on the thrust levers when it really should be my right hand. So for that reason alone, I said, screw it, I'm getting the Airbus thrust levers, and I'll tell you guys how I think about them. So that'll be tomorrow. All right. I know it's taken a long time, but the real point of the stream was so you guys can see the flows go in order, and then you can watch them back if you want. So let's go ahead and do a quick flight plan loading here. Let's get everything loaded up here. I'm going to do this. I'm trying to get my keyboard out so I can just type. It'll be a lot faster here. So we're going to do KSJC to KSAN. We are NKS 357, and we're going to align. And we're cost index of 75. Cruise flight level is 310. That is set. So we got that. Now we're going to go flight plan. San Jose departure. Let's pull up our information here. KSJC. We should be departing. Oh, wind calm. So we're definitely going to be going off of, what's the calm wind runway? I think it's the opposite direction that I want to go, right? So Dimitri says, ooh, custom hardware, let's go. Dimitri, yeah, we'll see. I'm really excited about the thrust levers themselves. I don't know if I would say really excited because I kind of have a feeling how I think they're going to be, but I may be wrong. I'll give you guys a full breakdown of that. We're on the Techie 3, but again, it's basically for my muscle memory. I don't like negative training. I think when you start doing negative training, it can come back to bite you. So, and if I'm not flying a lot, I'm doing a lot of sim stuff, then I don't want to negatively train my muscle memory. So after eBay, we're going to join the Avenal. And again, when we kind of get back to those flows things here, Phantom, when he came back up, if it's his leg, he'd probably start plugging away at the box, and the box is pretty much done. I would say a good, well-oiled crew can turn an airplane in 20 minutes. You're likely going to be waiting for passengers or paperwork. That's what's going to hold you up. It's not the crew that's holding you up. You can turn an airplane in probably less. You can probably turn it in 15 minutes. Like get the box completely reset. Maybe even less than that. I don't know. If you didn't have to worry about passengers, because if I could program the real box in probably 2 minutes. LA and then the comics too. But remember, it's not about speed. It's about being. Do the Lope 27. That sounds good. We'll do it from Lindy. And we're on the Barrick LAX transition. Perfect. Insert that. There we go. Cost index 75 looks like you want to fly faster. Why does it look like the aircraft in alternate law from the PFD? Good question. That's because it is. Right now, we're not aligned, so the aircraft is in alternate law. We got no hydraulics, no engines running. So the amber X's on the PFD do indicate that it is in alternate law. That is true to real life. All right, so secondary initialization. I tell you what, guys, I've been flying some VA stuff for V-Spirit, hence the Spirit livery today, and I had some pretty serious failures the other day. So I need to actually make sure we are set up here for a return, because I have my failures set abnormally high. So we have to come back around. I don't think we have an ILS 30, right? 30 left. Yeah, we'll do that one. And then quick perf. I might have to turn the failures down a little bit. I feel like I'm getting failures every single flight now with it set at 100. 200 on the DH right now. What is our current weather? 11 degrees outside, 0 for 0 on the wind. And I'm just trying to kind of rush through this here because we took a lot of time on the pre-flight. 30. Oh, come on. 07. How to differentiate between airways and waypoints or fixes in the flight plan? To vanish, any airway is going to be or most likely a jet route or a Victor route. You can have a J or a V in front of it. Or, Upper Tango, Upper Lima. Comes with practice, my friend. All right, so RadNav, init B. All right, let's load the airplane up here. What do we need? Oh, I got to put in the tropo. Gate fuel 10.2 is what we need. So let's take a less than 100 and, 131 or less. We're going to go low. So we got 107 people on board. Don't need that much cargo. But we do need 10.2 on the fuel. 10,000 minimum to dispatch. So we're a plus 300. Have to get an amendment for that. That's okay. We'll load these settings. We've got 116.5 and 30.0. Oh, I'm sorry. No, that would be real life. For sim purposes, 28.0. In real life, we set this to default number of 30. After engine started, will auto-populate to the accurate serial fuel weight CFG. Block fuel weight is 10.6 here. All right, 24, 28. It's coming up. Extra gas. That looks good. Jeremy says, I was chatting with the crew the other day, and they even had time to get donuts after meeting up at the gate. That's awesome, Jeremy. Yeah, I'm telling you, man, it's really the longest part on a turnaround, anytime is this deplaning and then getting fuel or paperwork. That's really, that takes the longest, you know. The crew can get that airplane set up. I mean, a lot of times if you're doing a through flight like that, what you'll do is you'll set the box before you even open the cockpit door for your next flight. Why do we got Toga packs off? Heck yeah, let's do Toga packs off. 129, 129. We'll set up the box for the next flight, and then we'll get off the airplane before it's even been deplaned. So you're just ready to go. 134. And flaps 1 Toga packs off. Remind me to make sure we do the packs off on that one. All right, perf is set. Okay, so we're sitting here at the gate. I'll get to the rest of your comments here after we go through the next phase. So back to our flows and the purpose of today's stream. I've done my flow, he's done his flow. Our diff strip has now been completed. At this point, after the diff strip has been completed, or the McDo, now we're going to do the briefing. So everything has been set up. This is when we do the crew briefing. So I'd say, all right, Phantom 320, it's going to be a left seat departure today. We're in an Airbus A319 for tail strike avoidance. There are no MELs or CDLs affecting the performance of the aircraft. We are going to be on the Techie 3 RNAV departure. Techie 3 RNAV departure has us going up to flight level 190. Going off runway 30 right is our planned departure runway. If we have any emergencies prior to V1, it'll be my decision to reject, abort the aircraft. I'll bring the aircraft to complete stop, set the parking brake, analyze the situation, call for ECAM actions or the emergency evacuation checklist as requested. And then you will do your thing. He does his spiel. And then from there I say, okay, anything else we'll handle as an in-flight emergency. If we have to do immediate air return, we're going to come back around. We're going to land on the secondary. We've got runway 30 left, ILS. We don't really need the ILS today. The clouds are pretty high, but we have that set up in the secondary should we need to return back for an underweight landing here on runway 30 left. Other than that, if everything else goes as smooth, we're going to continue out on the Techie 3 RNAV departure. We got a couple of restrictions going out northbound here. MILPS at or above 900, max 230 knots in the turn. So, after that, we're going to go all the way out to the Techie transition. Actually, all the way out to eBay. Shouldn't be a problem meeting those crossing restrictions. We're up to flight level 190. We got a good squawk of 200 that's in the box. I got flight directors on. You got any questions? We're going to start, let's start 1 engine at the gate. We'll get rolling, and then we'll start 2 on the way out. Any questions? No questions. All right, let's do a before start checklist. So, at that point, before start checklist to the line, wing maintenance log and tail number, it's on board and check. Cockpit prep, that has been completed. Gear pins and covers removed. Signs. Oh. So it reminded me, and I skipped one there. So before I call for the before start checklist, got a little, after that briefing there, what's probably happening is you've got this going on here. We're closing up. Start hearing things closing up. Our fueling is complete, right? So fueling is complete. Because he probably comes up, and the reason this is funny, I think I know why I just missed this. So I'm supposed to do signs, my cabin signs. I didn't do it, and I started reading the checklist. 99% of the time, the ground crew or the gate agent or the fueler, whatever, they're going to come up and interrupt your crew briefing with the paperwork. So that was my trigger. The real trigger in real life should be once fueling is complete. Once fueling is complete and they come up and interrupt my crew briefing, I see, okay, I got balanced fuel 3,800 in each center tank there. That looks good. Come up to the overhead, get my fuel pumps on, and I'm going to go ahead and turn the signs on and auto. 10 minutes prior to departure, which we are right at departure time. I'm going to go ahead and start the APU. From now, we'll do a before start checklist. So, before start checklist, we already did that. Signs are on and auto, ADIRS, nav mode, fuel, 10 required, 10.5 on board. Engine mode, or altimeters are 3007 set. 3007 set. EFBS check, before start checklist to the line. And we're cooking with gas now. Spool up that APU, get rid of these trucks. Dougal says V1 has his own personal afterburners fired up today. Flying through this. Dougal, I'm just trying to... I get in the mode, man. I sit down. We start doing these flows. It's just like, all right, let's get it on. Let's do it. Boom, boom, boom. I'm trying not to go too fast, but I also don't want to be sitting at the gate for 2 hours here either on the stream. Do I have a good acronym to help you remember the items for your briefing? I don't have one off the top of my head, Jeremy. I'm sorry, man. I think I did at some point. But for the crew briefing, think of it this way. You want to brief everything that's pertinent to your flight, right? So you want to brief where you're going, your taxi out. What SID are you on? What is your departure runway? Are there any special situations with your departure runway, such as an engine failure? That's when I go into my V1 or my V1 abort status, right? And then from there I go, okay, well, if we don't have an emergency, what else do we do? We're going to continue as planned. And then I give them a quick little brief, with 1 or 2 engine taxi out, and then I ask if there's any questions or additions, and then we're good to go. It just comes with time. There might be an acronym I don't remember. I don't recall. I apologize, man. All right, so that is good. We got our APU bleed is on. We're going to go ahead and disconnect. We'll turn that off, and let's do a before start checklist below the line. So my trigger for below the line, I come down here. All my slides are closed up. At this point in real life, you probably have this going on. Push
hey,
back.
Captain, let me know where you want this thing.
All right, we're going to go, let's go, I think they do straight back. I don't remember. We'll do this since we're on the 30.
Great news, Captain. Your tow's coming.
So at this point, where is the ground handling hide all? There we go. I'm waiting for him to come up here. I make sure my doors are closed, and I have to do one very important flow before I finish the before start checklist and we push back. That very important flow I will not start unless I see my trigger, which is my nose wheel steering disconnect. So as the tug comes up and hooks up to the front of the airplane, there's a lever on the nose gear, and basically it's a hydraulic bypass pin. And it's very important that A, they put the pin in and disconnect the nose wheel steering during pushback, and 2, it's very important that they remove that pin after pushback. So that's my trigger for both of these checklists, the before start and the after start, because I'm not going to do my after start until I see the removal of the nose wheel steering disconnect.
Looks like the doors and hatches are closed and we're ready to connect.
Roger that. What's wrong with the stairs? I don't know. There we go. Nose wheel steering disconnect is on, so that's my trigger. From there, my before start flow is this, and I don't like seeing that up there, so I'm going to come up here and disconnect that because that should be off. And we're going to go beacon light. I come down here. Nose wheel steering disconnected. Doors and windows are all closed and armed. Thrust levers idle. Accumulator pressure, very important for parking brake, is in the green. I'm looking at this needle here. That is in the green. Off, off. Parking brake is set for right now. Cockpit door is normal.
Welcome aboard.
My
Captain.
window is closed.
Toes connected. Bypass pins inserted. Go and kill the parking brake when you're ready to go.
Roger. Stand by. Before start checklist, below the line. So now Phantom's going to do his flow, and this is one where you kind of have to do when you're operating single pilot here. His flow is going to make sure the APU bleed is on, and he's also going to make sure the transponder is on. That's pretty much it, I think. I don't know, Phantom, he's not here to help me out today. But so he does his flow. Before start checklist, below the line. Windows, doors, and slides, they're closed and armed. Beacon, that is on. Thrust levers, they're idle. Parking brake is on for now. Before start check is complete. Cockpit to ground. Go ahead, Captain. Brakes release, you're clear to push.
Here comes the pushback. Light them up.
Dimitri says, why does Castrator always sound like he had a gallon of coffee and 3 Red Bulls? Oh, Dimitri, that's funny, man. I don't know, dude. I tell you what, though, the freaking those Red Bulls and coffee will get you. I had one time, somebody was posting something about energy drinks or something in the Discord, and I was going to post a situation, but I think I'm going to save the whole event for a Cockpit confessional, which I'm so far behind on that podcast. I'm really going to try to get it out today, guys. I got a great Cockpit confessional for you, but I do have a scenario where the one time I haven't had a Red Bull since. I was doing a sim session while I was flying freight. My simulator training session was from 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. It was a 3-hour sim session for 3 days in a row, 1 to 4. Then I had class from 9 to 1 in the daytime. So I was just absolutely beat up. The second day of sim, where we're doing all emergency procedures, I was so tired. I drank a Red Bull. It didn't work. I was like, screw it, I'm taking a 5-hour energy. So I had a Red Bull and a 5-hour energy. Never in my life have I ever had any anxiety or panic attacks or anything like that. Dude, in the sim, full-blown panic attack. I'm like, what the hell is going on with me? My heart was beating out of my chest. It was absolute madness. So after that, I never had a Red Bull again. But hey, I got through the sim that night. 220 watching, 95 likes. Let's go ahead and bump those likes up, guys. I know I'm trying to have a good balance of trying to keep the good flow going with the Cockpit procedures and interacting with the chat, so I apologize if I'm missing some of your comments. I try to do what's kind of critical to the flight, and then I come over to the chat. So I am trying to scroll back up and get to your questions. But yeah, if you do like this kind of content, guys, do hit the like button for me. Helps the channel out. COVID-free like button, of course. Thank you for all the subscribe, guys. I'm seeing a lot of subscribers come in. I do appreciate you guys subscribing to the channel here. All right, let's go ahead and start. Oh, he's going to tell me to set a brake here, isn't he?
Just about done here. Go ahead and set your parking brake.
Park brake set. Starting engine 1.
And we're disconnecting the tow. Give me just a moment.
All right, so Phantom's actually going to start the engines. The captain doesn't start the engine. We're going to start engine 1 first because we are going to do a single engine taxi. Let's go ahead and spool it up. I'll let you listen to the start.
And we're disconnected. Signal and pin on the left. Take it easy and have a safe flight.
Roger, thanks for disconnecting. See you next time. Sounds like a good start on 1. We're going to do a single engine taxi out, so he would do his after start flow. That would come off, that would come off. We'll go flaps 1. Yellow electric pump on and bleed off. That little chime you heard there is probably a flap slat low because we're extending flaps before the yellow electric pump is on. That's normal. Thank you for the super chat, Drew10. He says, Mr. V1, how's it going? I love your streams. Thank you, dude. I appreciate it. If you mind me asking, how were your grades in school? Random question, I know. Good day. Drew10, thank you so much for the $5 bomb. I appreciate it, man. I was pretty much B's and A's. I'd say majority B's. I had a couple A's, of course, in the classes I liked. I did drop out of calculus in high school. I didn't need it because I was going to take it in college. And my teacher said that, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said, well, I want to be a pilot. She's like, well, you're never going to be a pilot if you drop my class. And I said, oh, yeah? Well, watch this. So I dropped her class. She was pissed. I couldn't stand her. Worst teacher in the whole school. But I was mostly B's and A's. I think I had maybe a C or 2 here, but I didn't flunk anything. Actually, in college, I did flunk my freshman year weather course. I did flunk that one. So I did get an F. I'm not perfect by any means. Absolutely not. All right, where are we at here? Good start, engine 1. I'm checking for, what were we checking for before? The nose wheel steering disconnected is now removed. So then my flow, I'm going to make sure, do I need engine hand on ice? No, I don't need it. I'm going to turn my intercom on now. Now that the ground crew is disconnected, I can have the hot mic. I don't need to worry about it. Phantom will also turn on his hot mic. Actually, his RMP should be on over there as well. And ready to taxi. All right, so after start checklist. Engine and ice off. Your electric pump is on. Rudder trim is 0. After start checklist complete. Let's go ahead and get out of here. Our frame drops are holding right at 15%. So as of now, we don't need to divert. We'll see what happens. Let's do a cinematic taxi out here. Watch your ears. I did release the parking brake, didn't I? Okay, told us. There we go. We were stuck in the ground. We're moving now. We're moving now. I love this airplane. You should try Bang Energy. No, man, I've heard all kinds of things. I don't do energy drinks anymore, man. The only one I do now is Celsius. I do drink a little bit of Celsius. Dougal says, I hope you went back to that teacher after getting the captain's seat. No, I don't think I did, man. I think, you know what's funny is I think my mother actually sent her a letter because she hated football players. I was a football player in high school as well. And so she already hated me. And then the fact that I was dropping her class, she really hated that, and this was never good. Why is Pack 2 off? Oh, do we have a fault here? Do we need to clear any faults? No. All right, looks like there's no line out there, Phantom. Let's go ahead and start engine 2. All right, so yellow electric pump is off. APU bleed is back on. Ignition to ignition start. We got our pressure building, and he's going to go ahead and start engine 2 while we're on the taxi out here. I'm going to check our altimeter because I think it's a little bit off. What do we got? 3011 set, and it changes all three of mine. One question I get asked a lot is, when you're doing a single engine taxi, can you move both thrust levers? The answer to that is no. Not that you can't do it. It does no harm with the engine off, obviously. But the thing is, if you go ahead and say start engine 2 and your second thrust lever is not at idle, the engine will start with the thrust lever not at idle position, so it will immediately spool up to whatever position it is in, and that could cause a differential thrust situation or hazard to ground crew, anything like that. So that is why you always taxi with the only engine thrust lever that is operating. Sounds like we got a good start on number 2. There's the avail light. I'll go ahead and reset. I do my flow again. I would only need engine anti-ice. My intercom is on. Phantom will go through his flow here. He's going to go back to normal, double check everything, and turn off the APU. After that, all right, so after start checklist again, engine anti-ice off, electric pump is off, rotor trim 0, after start checklist is completed. All right, let's do a mini brief. After start checklist completed, that's the trigger. First officer is going to brief the departure now, make sure everything is set up in the box correctly. It's going to sound something like this. All right, it's going to be off runway 30 right on the Techie 3 departure. Gross weight is 127,000 pounds. Fuel on board is 10,400. Speeds 129 to 134. Toga set. Initial altitude is 190. Standard transition. First fix is RNAV to Milpitas. No questions. After he completes his mini brief, that is my trigger. Flight control check. Full up. Full down. Neutral. Full left. Full right. Neutral. Rudder. Full left. It's not going full left because of my curves. Full right. Neutral. Also, one thing that Phantom forgot to do is set the trim up 0.3. All right, trim is set. All right, after the flight controls are done, he actually does this flow. It's a pretty lengthy flow. He's going to turn the auto brakes to max. He's going to do a takeoff config check. He's going to turn on the radar and PWS, turn the transponder to auto, make a PA, flight attendants prepare for takeoff. We got to hit that calls button there. All right, let's do a before takeoff checklist all the way through. All right, gross weight comparison is complete. Pitch trim 0.3% CG set, V1, VR, V2 flex. That's my trigger. I come down here. Since I'm flying, I go perf page. 129, 129, 134, no flex set. Flaps, config, 1+F. Flight instruments, check. Flight controls, check. ECAM memo, takeoff, all green. ECAM status, check. PWS is auto. TCAS, code set, TARA, cabin crew advised, mini brief is complete. Below the line, takeoff runway 30 right confirm. Fuel, 10 required, 10-4 on board. Engine mode selector normal, bleeds and packs. We're doing a packs off takeoff. I shut down the APU, so we're going to do old school. Packs are coming off. Our set before takeoff checklist is complete. Doing a Toga packs off takeoff out of here. All checklists are complete. We got 2 minutes and 30 seconds on the engine warm-up. We need a minimum of 3 minutes. Spear wings 357, runway 30 right, line up and wait. 30 right, line up and wait, spear wings 357. Line up and wait. Strobes come on, wings come on. I extend these lights here, but I don't turn them on. So any line up and wait clearance, think of it as kind of before takeoff, or a line up clearance and a takeoff clearance. Everything on top comes on, and then when I get cleared for takeoff, everything on the bottom comes on. One of my better lineups there for X-Plane. Yeah, that's not bad. Hashtag real pilot. There we go. All right. That always gets me. Like, number one thing people say, like, oh, you're not a real pilot because you don't line up on the center line. Like, dude, I don't have a freaking tiller. What I call the A318, that'd be the infant bus, man. All right, you guys ready to do this? Carta, real quick before I take off, where's the Eastern 7.5? I didn't know I was allowed to stream your engines yet, Carta. That's the only reason why, man. I was like, well, I guess they're not released. I thought it was a secret. I'm ready to roll whenever you are, man. All right, here we go, guys. For the takeoff, for the packs off procedure, real quick before we go. We already talked about this a lot here on the SNA departures. Normally, we would leave the APU bleed on because then we have maximum air conditioning for the back, and we've got maximum performance because the APU bleed will supersede the engine bleeds, i.e. it basically shuts the packs off when you have the APU bleed on. Since our APU is not on, we have packs off, it is very important that we turn the packs on in a specific order after takeoff. We are going to turn pack 1 on after thrust reduction altitude. This airport is about 1,000 feet AGL. We must wait at least 10 seconds before turning on pack 2. The reason for that being, if you just turn on both packs right away, you're going to have a little blowout of the outflow valve, and the pressurization is really going to be felt on your ears. So you turn pack 1 on, that thrust reduction, 10 seconds at least, and then come up and turn on pack number 2. Of course, verify everything is pressurizing from there. All right, here we go. Why do you call 80 knots prior to normally as in 100? A lot of stuff happens at about 74 knots in the Airbus. I'll talk about that in depth a little bit later, but there's actually some triggers that happen systematically after, I think it's like 74 knots. So if you actually do a V1 to cut before 71 or 74 knots, it's pretty tricky. But that's in-depth discussion we'll talk about later. Here we go. You guys ready? Maximum yoga's in chat because this is, I don't know if I've done a packs off here in a while. So here we go. We're going to go maximum yoga. Full them up 50%. Yoga time. Oh, yeah. Those engines are working. All right, here we go. Mantoga, SRS, nav, auto thrust blue, 80 knots. Thrust set. Oh, I didn't turn my lights on. Rip. V1. Rotate. Positive rate. Gear up. Nav. Flyby. I forgot to turn my lights on. Oh, look at that shot. That was amazing. Oh yeah, when you get cleared for takeoff, make sure you turn your lights on. There we go. Lever climb. So here, I'm going to go ahead and bring it back to kind of that MCT detent here. There's man MCT climb. Now that I got positive trend, I'm going to come all the way back to climb. Thrust climb, auto thrust. There's a reduction. Pack 1 is on. Give it about 10 seconds. I'm going to go autopilot 1 because I want to look outside here. Oh my gosh, I love San Jose departures. There's S-speed, flaps 0. After takeoff checklist, been 10 seconds. Pack 2 on. Verify the cabin is climbing. Oh yeah, look at that juice right there. Orbix HD on a 319 gray pixel. Doesn't get much better than that, my friend. Does not get much better than the Yoga packs off takeoff, and a 319 nonetheless, which is louder than all the other Airbuses because you're closer to the engines up front. Chrono, Dimitri. Chrono, you got it, bud. There's our first restriction here. I'm just gonna let it chill out on this view for a minute because this is awesome. Got a lot of childhood memories coming in out of San Jose. Drag Peterson, take it easy, my friend. Carter says we will chat some minor things I need to do before release. Okay, okay. Slam says, as much as I like the Neo with BSS, nothing beats the IAEs. I agree with you, Slam. I totally agree with you, man. And especially, you know, in real life, if you get on a 319, they're generally older airplanes to begin with, so they're not as, I guess they just don't sound like they're insulated as well, and everything is just louder in a 319. And you sit on the engine view like this on a Toga takeoff, it's absolute juice. Look at that. San Jose. There's the Bay Area. San Fran is out here somewhere. Have I ever been to Atlanta in real life, Captain Lee? Yes, many times, my friend, many times. I actually got pushed into a catering truck in Atlanta one time. Did I tell that story yet on the podcast? I don't know if I did. Yeah, we bent a wingtip off. Well, I say we. I didn't do it. The tug driver did. All right, we're in and out of the clouds up here. What do we got for temps? Are 11C, so we're looking good. This is a long time at 5,000. We got to stay below the Bravo for San Fran. That's kind of the point of this departure. Oh, that's cool too. Look at that shot. I'm going to stay on this view as the engine accelerates as we climb up. Travis says frame drops are not too bad today either. I know, that's good. We're holding right about 15%. So as of right now, we don't need to divert. It's a pretty short flight down to San Diego. So if it holds out like this, we should be okay. Michael, good morning. Welcome to the stream, my friend. Welcome on board, my friend. Is that an engine mod? Yes, it is. It's the IAE engine mod. Cabin signs are on auto, Sky Training. I didn't turn on probe and window heat. Is that part of the checklist? It's not part of the checklist. That's part of your flow initially when you get to the aircraft. The only time you would use that probe and window heat push button is if you are, let's say you get to the airplane and it's frosted over and you need to defrost your windshield before starting an engine. As soon as the engine is started, it will go into its auto mode. Way better than a Boeing. I want to hear these engines spool up here as we climb out of California. This is so nostalgic for me every time I do this departure because, like I said, as a kid, I would be in and out of San Jose a lot. That's where we used to fly into. I'd go see my grandparents, and I would just love this view here. The brown in between the trees. I could almost smell it, man. I could smell my grandparents' property out there. Oh, look at that, climbing out. Jeremy Harvey says, I had my first MAX 8 flight the other day. The FADEC on the MAX has more bells and whistles, but still not as fancy as the Airbus. Airbus still wins. Heck yeah, Jeremy. That's awesome, man. I've seen a couple of those MAXs flying around. I've seen a couple. Man, did you guys see the video of that V1 cut? Or it wasn't a V1 cut, it was an abort, which, I mean, those guys must have been so close to V1. It was a 7.3 MAX American, somewhere in the Caribbean, I think. Or Jamaica, maybe? I think someone posted in the Discord, but man, that captain was on it like white on rice, man. They had to be so close to V1. I'm inclined to think maybe they even hit V1, but it was instantaneous. It was like V1 bird strike, and he aborted. You have a split second to react, and he did a fantastic job. The airplane didn't even stray from the center line. I mean, he kept it right on the center line. And you can hear him in that video. You can actually hear him come on, and he says, remain seated, which that's in my takeoff briefing that I did, right? I said, prior to V1, it'll be my decision to reject. I'll bring the aircraft to complete stop, set the parking brake, call flight attendant stations, analyze the situation, ECAM action evac checklist. So for us, you know, flight attendant stations in the Airbus, it's basically kind of like a standby, which is similar to remain seated. Still waiting for that podcast. Yes, I know, man. I'm Christian. Tonight, I'm gonna finish it up after the stream. I'm gonna just post it out right, after this. I'm behind. I know I'm behind. I got a lot of stuff I want to talk to my members about. I might even do just a special one because I've been so far behind. I might just do a special Cockpit Confessional in addition to. Flying Guitarist Sam, what's up, man? He says, I remember you telling a story about multiple incidents on Go Home Day at the regionals that ended with crew timing out on the commute home. Can't find it now, though. Oh, yeah, Go Home Day. Yeah, I have a whole list of Go Home Day F-overs, man. Steve, what's up, man? He says, good morning. Good morning to you, sir. Good-looking stream today. I appreciate it, my friend. Thank you. We are out of 10,000 feet, so 10,000 feet is the trigger for the next flow. Turn off all those lights. Wing lights come off. I will ding the forward call button, allow the flight attendants to get up and do their things in the cabin. From there, I will also put my EFIS into airport mode, but because the sim loads every single airport, it's not too bad right now. I guess we can do it. I'll leave it on airport mode. In the real Airbus, when you put airport mode on, it only displays airports that are within your company's database, so you don't have 5,000 airports displayed on your screen here. Airport mode. And then I'll come down here and make sure I'm in flight plan. And the pilot monitoring at that point, he's got his own flow. His own flow would be to come into the rad nav page, clear out any hard-tuned radios. He will also go into the secondary flight plan. He will copy the active flight plan in the secondary. And from there, he will also put Delta operations on the second radio, 121.5. That's in COM 2. And then we could monitor that, should we need to monitor that or anyone talk to us. No, that's our 10,000 foot flow. We keep climbing out here. As captain, I start to judge the ride at about 18,000 feet in the climb out. You know, on a short flight like this, you don't have a lot of time to get that seatbelt sign off. So, 17, 18,000 feet, I start to think, well, if it's pretty smooth, I might just go ahead and turn the seatbelt sign off. But you also have to think that once you turn the seatbelt sign off, everybody in the back is just want to get up and run around like banshees, right? So if the flight attendants are trying to do their service, sometimes it's better to just keep that seatbelt sign on for 20 minutes. That, for 20 minutes for a 319 is pretty good. Allows them to go through the aisles, get the service done before turning the seatbelt sign off. Because, if you guys have been on an airplane, when the seatbelt sign is off and people are trying to get to and from their seat and they got galley carts in the aisle, it's a pain in the butt. So we'll go ahead and set standard, but we'll go ahead and turn the seatbelt sign off. We'll let them roam. 18,000 set standard. We'll also go topless. We'll turn the loudspeaker on, take our headset off. And from there, we're just kind of cruising. Relatively short flight, only 360 miles to go. Speed alt star. We're going to take it all the way up to our final cruise altitude of 310. Triple chirp there because I interrupted it in alt star mode. But now we're going thrust climb and 310. And I'm also going to put K-SAN in my prog page. Just direct distance, 326. Things are looking up. Let's go back outside. Is this Monterey Bay? Yeah, Monterey Bay. So my grandparents' house is actually somewhere way over here off this wing. So we would depart, we'd land in San Jose, goes to Highway 17 through the mountains. Then there's a little town out here, Santa Cruz, and it's just beautiful, man. West Coast is definitely where you want to be flying, man. It's absolutely beautiful out here. Aviator says, I saw it. It's crazy how fast they stopped. Yeah, I would love to know how close they were to V1, but it was an amazing job by that crew to stop that airplane like they did, and not even drift a foot from the center line. Shaquille Oatmeal, what's going on, man? He says Booker's small batch bourbon would definitely get the V1 seal of approval. Booker's small batch bourbon. Okay, well, I'm going to add that to my list here. Put on my notes. I got a little running note list. Anytime someone recommends a bourbon or something like that I really need to try, I'll throw it on my notes here. So let's go ahead and add a new one here. You said Booker's small batch, huh? I'm going to look that one up. I appreciate that, my friend. Thank you. I don't think it was a bird strike. You just saw birds. Christian, I thought I heard a bird actually hit the window. In the second image, in the second video, you see a bird go right by the window, like maybe it bounced off the cockpit. Either way, maybe he just saw birds, so I'm not sure, but... Fubar says, woohoo, podcast. I know, guys. The thing with the podcast, it's so hard for me to find a time to do it because my desk is set up right across from my little girl's room now. I got to change this. So when she goes down, it's the perfect time for me to do the podcast. But then I'm talking like right outside her window or right outside her door, and I feel like I'm going to wake her up. But I got a lot of things I'm going to talk to you guys about. So at the very least today, you will at least get an update on my previous emergency. And if not that, you'll get the whole podcast today, and then I'm going to give you guys another story, another cockpit confessional, because there's been a lot of things happening to me lately that I want to talk to you guys about. The Tolis is light on airports compared to the flight factories. Maybe that's why I don't do this. The flight factor loads every freaking airport in the system, doesn't it? Samikin says, hey V1, good morning. Waiting for your next detailed panel videos. Oh yeah, we do got to get back on those overhead panels. I will get back on them, man. There's a lot going on right now in my personal life within the next 3 weeks. Like basically this month, obviously, with our new girl coming in, and then I've got something going on right now that's taking a lot of my time outside of sim stuff. So I should have some more time here. I'm going to be doing some more traveling as well, guys. So my COVID seniority has diminished. When I say COVID seniority, when COVID hit last year, different airlines offer leaves and paid leaves and things like that. So when senior guys take leaves, if you're not on leave, you move up, right? You get that artificial seniority boost. So you get, wow, I'm starting to get some really nice trips. But now that everybody's pretty much back online, I'm getting pushed back down to where I belong. And so it won't be as smooth sailing. I'm going to be doing some overnights here and doing a lot more traveling. And plus, I think it's just better. I'm kind of over the drive. I got about an hour and a half drive to the airport. So it's almost better for me to do a 4-day trip than 1 and 2 day trips. As much as I like being home as much as I can, sometimes that 4-day might just be more beneficial. V1, when you were with the regionals, did you fly CRJs or ERJs? I flew the EMB. No, that's an ERJ. The Embraer 170 and 190, man. And if you fly from Mesa, it's a 175. God forbid you call it a 170. But yeah, no, I flew technically 170s, 175s, 195s. Captain, how do I feel about the supersonic flights making a comeback? Hey, man, I think it's, at this point, I'll believe it when I see it, my friend. I'll believe it when I see it. I would be cool. I don't see how it hasn't, in all this time. I think it is strange that it hasn't happened already, that we have supersonic flights, but it's ironic that now we want to start doing supersonic stuff as gas prices are rising, so I'll believe it when I see it, man. Aaron says, I just watched that 7.3 Max RTO. Serious engineering happening in that video. Oh, yeah, man. I mean, the brakes are on max, the spoilers are up, but it just was... It was instant. Like, you always hope. I've never had to do, knock on wood, an abort at V1 or like just prior to V1 other than in a sim. And you always train for it. You always hope that, you're going to be on it. But as I've learned throughout the several emergencies I've had in my career, you never know how you're going to perform until you're actually in that situation. And, a V1 cut doesn't seem that like a big deal to a lot of people, especially if you're not flying big airplanes, you just support the takeoff. Maintaining directional control at 160 knots, 150 knots, whatever your V1 speed is, or 140 knots, I guess, for 7.3, I don't really know. It can actually be quite the challenge. And you got to not hit, if you got auto brakes, you got to make sure you don't trip the auto brakes. There's a lot that goes on. And if you get off just a little bit, sometimes if you have a crosswind, you get that reverse thrust will actually hurt you in a crosswind. You might start sliding out one way or the other. So maintaining that center line is definitely a challenge. And my only V1 aborts have been, I think, about 100 knots. I think my fastest one was 110 knots. I think we did an abort. I tell you what, man, on the Embraer, you have no, and then on the Airbus too. You do an RTO, you get locked into your seat, man. DJ Thomas coming in with a $20 bomb. Thank you so much, DJ Thomas. What's going on? He says, howdy, V1. It's been a minute since I got to catch a live stream. Been hellaciously busy with work. I hear you, my friend. Good to see you. Congrats on the new baby. DJ Thomas, thank you so much for your generous donation, super chat. I appreciate it. Glad to see you back here as well. I hope everything is good with you and your fam, work. I know all about work, taking up all your time, man. Trust me.
Subscriber ahead. Look up.
All right, let's take a look here. I know San Diego will sneak up on us, so I'm just kind of monitoring that. We've got about another 20 miles before we need to start prepping. I just can't get enough of this Orbix scenery.
Driver ahead. Look
Where do we
up.
park it? I don't know. That's pretty good right there, huh? Dimitri coming in with the Orbix juice. I know, man. Sam says, have you been having those unruly passenger incidents? Unbelievable what people are doing on airplanes. Sam, yes, I have, man. I've had some pretty gnarly ones. It's just, you know, the whole mask thing, it is what it is, but my problem with it is 90% of these incidences are with kids, right? So if a kid is 2 years old, they have to wear a mask according to the federal law, to the government. So, you know, trying to have a 2-year-old wear a mask, I mean, I have a 2-year-old. Like, there's no way I'm going to be able to keep a mask on her. And now some I will say, some kids do really well with it, but sometimes they don't. And then if the kid's not doing it, then you got to kick the whole family off, and it just turns into a mess, man. I think they need to do some modification on that. Highly recommend the Dead Rabbit whiskey. Ooh, Irish whiskey, but it's got a definite bourbony edge. Well, Aaron Hastings, we're throwing that one onto the list. Dead Rabbit, huh? Done. Thank you, sir. Uh-oh, I just heard a... What was that noise? I thought I heard something trip off. I'm all paranoid about this airplane now. So, I was flying this 319 on the V-Spirit flight the other day by myself, just off-stream, and I had a unique situation go on where I had a battery 2 fail. I'm like, okay, that's weird. APU start not available by battery. I'm like, well, since I can't do that, let me just go ahead and start the APU as a precaution. Didn't really need it anyway. So I had the APU running, and then I got a Pack 2 fault, or Pack 2 fail. Like, what the heck is going on here? Then I had Pack 2 fail. So Pack 2's off, not a big deal. The cabin is pretty much locked at whatever pressure it is, or temperature it is, I should say. Still got Pack 1 running, not a big deal. All right. I continued on. Then I had an Engine 1 fail. This is what got me. The Engine 1 failed. What happens when Engine 1 fails? Well, Pack 1 is not going to be run by anything, right? So unless I get the crossbleed open from Engine 2, and it was a very interesting, well-thought-out failure scenario by Tolis. It really got me thinking. So I love flying with failures on. I keep mine pretty high, 100 on the 319, just because I like to keep myself on my toes, but I get paranoid now. What airliners would you say are the most real life to X-Plane? I would say all the Tolis Airbuses, so your 319, 320, I think are really good representations of their real-world counterparts. The Flight Factory, it's definitely a good representation as well. So the Airbuses in X-Plane are good. I've heard the Zibo. I haven't flown it in a while. I think I might be in the Zibo in the upcoming stream. Zibo.
Donation.
God, that has scared me. Andre Henry, thank you so much for the $5 donation, man. He says, I live below the approach path of Bradley, Hartford, BDL, and finally heard that sound when the 320 extends speed brakes. Always learning something. Andre Henry, thank you so much for the $5 donation, man. I appreciate it. Yep, you heard that speed brake sound, that ooh. So that's the Airbus deploying the speed brakes, and then when it goes ooh, they're retracting them. So absolutely, man. Good stuff. Thank you for your support, Andre. I really appreciate it, my friend. Sam says, I didn't realize it was mostly with kids. I've just seen the news stories with adults. Yeah. Well, Sam, that too. I haven't had one of those, like where the Southwest flight attendant got punched in the face, or Delta passenger that wanted to stop the plane. Yeah. I haven't had any of those. Most of mine have been mask related. I guess I should say thankfully, compared to what the other incidences are going out there. But yeah, the whole alcohol consumption thing, people getting crazy on airplanes, it's just, what a time to be alive, man. What a time to be alive. But yeah, mine have been mostly mask-related issues. But yeah, the whole suspension of alcohol service, to be honest, I'm kind of surprised it didn't come sooner, because there's been a couple of incidences that don't really make the news. You kind of just hear about them within the aviation community. I'm kind of surprised it took this long. Dimitri says, never mind toddlers, good luck trying to get my 18-year-old to put a mask on when he's with his girlfriend. Dimitri, oh man, that's funny, dude. Yeah, I hear you. Dimitri says the PMDG is, or the Zibo is now PMDG level. I believe you, Dimitri. I watched the XP stream the other day when he was in the Zibo going in LaGuardia. Freaking awesome stream going in there. I'm going to get in the Zibo. I think I'm going to do it next. either the Zebo next or maybe the 7.5 because I want to show off Carta's new juicy engine mod. But I think it's time that we jump into a Boeing. Hopefully we'll have good internet for that as well, because that will probably be more of an entertainment stream versus a learning stream. But I do want to get back in that Zebo. It looks pretty amazing, not going to lie. Alright, so coming back to our airplane and flow stream here. So we're cruising along. We like to call it fat, dumb, and happy. Nothing going on. We're just chilling. Alright, what is our next trigger? Well, the next trigger for prepping a descent is going to be about that 250 mile mark. So we are 236 miles. We're inside of that. So let's go ahead and begin prepping. Now this is pretty much all done silently by the pilot flying. The pilot monitoring will get the ATIS for them. Pull it up here. We got our current winds in San Diego. So I'm going to go through my little flow here. And basically you just think of it as a little top of descent or top of hat here. So flight plan, we're going to do the LOP 27 today. Rad nav, I'm not going to put anything in the rad nav. I'm going to do KSAN runway 27 on the approach. We'll do the old school approach method here, which we won't be doing very much anymore. I'm going to change my descent speed. We'll do 78 300 on the descent. Approach data. So let's get the winds in there. Right now 290 at 4. Temperature in San Diego 18. Beautiful morning. Broken at 13. Ooh, broken at 1300. QNH 3005. So I think we'll be getting down just fine. All right. LOP 27. So a couple things I'll pull out here as well in my real life EFB. I'd get the airport page out. Get our arrival pulled out, which we're on the comics too. And then we also want to pull out the approach, which is going to be LOP 27. Localizer 27. At this point here, I'm looking down at my minimums. Remember, MDA, this is a minimum decision altitude, so we're going to add 50 feet to that. So that's going to be 730, right? Yeah, 730 in the barrel. That is set. Nothing to put in the secondary. You know, I could copy, I might just recopy the active or put a different runway in there, or maybe a single engine missed approach procedure in the secondary. From there, I'll go to my McDo menu, go to the performance, and send off my perf data so I get my landing distance calculations. Once that is done, now I come back and I do my flow in the airplane here. So I kind of just start here at the FCU. I'm going to go my LS push button on because we're going to be doing a localizer, right? So I got a localizer on. Nothing to change up here right now. I'm going to put my constraint modes on for the star. Up to the overhead, we are doing a localizer only, so we're going to inhibit the glide slope mode. So theoretically speaking, this is a true localizer approach into San Diego. There is no ILS. You're not doing the localizer off of an ILS. So there is no glide slope antenna pointing out this direction. So in real life, would it matter if you have the glide slope mode off here? Probably not. But you have to standardize everything when you're working at an airline, right? Everything has to be standardized. You got to standardize every approach, every type of approach. So for the reason being that if you were to do a localizer off of an ILS, you want to make sure you inhibit the glide slope mode so you don't accidentally or inadvertently start capturing the glide slope or trying to chase the glide slope when you have to be on a localizer. So glide slope mode push button is on. We'll go ahead and change the temps around here. That looks good. And nothing else to change down here. All right, so that's good. Now I'm going to just go ahead and pull up the plan mode here. And I'm going to step through the box to make sure everything is looking good. Where is our arrival? We're coming in. Starts at Legion. We have some restrictions. There we go, below 19, below 15. That looks good. This transition all the way out manual leg, and then we join at Lindy. Or, yeah, Lindy. So Nadu to Lindy, and we take it in. So that looks good to me there. If you guys want to see a full-blown localizer tutorial video, check out the localizer approach tutorial that I have on my channel. I go really into in-depth on this specific approach here into San Diego, what I'm looking for, how to transfer, you know, or how to calculate your descent point and all that. I'm not going to get too in-depth in that today. We're just going to fly the localizer because we are simulating, you know, 2 trained crew members up here doing our flows. But check that video out if you want to get in-depth on how to shoot this localizer. All right. So now that everything has been set up by the pilot flying, myself, I've verified all the fixes. Now I'm going to brief the approach. So I'll say, Phantom 320, you have the flight controls. You ready for a brief? He says, all right, let's do it. All right, so we're coming down the COMEX 2 RNAV arrival into San Diego. I verified all the speed and altitude restrictions. They're in the box. We get a descend via. It's going to bottom out for us at 6,000 feet over Nadu intersection. We should be at 210 knots at that point. From there, we're going to transition to the localizer, runway 27 approach. Localizer 27 approach San Diego is chart 11-3, effective 20 December 20. Localizer course is 110.9 IUBR. We're going to auto-tune that. Final approach course will be 275 degrees. Rebo on path, 2,000 feet. MDA is 680. It's an MDA. We're going to add 50 feet, so we got 730 set in the barrow. That matches what's in the glass. That checks. Touchdown zone elevation is 17 feet. Multiple sector altitudes around the Mission Bay VOR, the highest sector altitude being out to the east at 5,400. So what really we're about is 2,100 because we're going to be coming in around this direction here. Looking at the Localizer 27 approach, when we break out, we should see a PAPI on the right-hand side of the runway. Mouse lighting. We got 9,400 feet available for landing. There's going to be a left-hand turnoff, probably Bravo 8 or Bravo 9. If we're on the approach and we don't see visual references, we have to go around, execute a misapproach. We're going to go straight out 2,500 on a heading at 275 to intercept the Mission Bay 255 radial out to Cicade and hold. Inbound course 075 matches the plate. It's in the box. We already talked about a left-hand turnoff on runway 27 into the gate. From there, we're in an A319 for tail strike avoidance. I'm planning on going flaps full reverse, and manual braking. Do you have any questions, comments, or concerns? The glide slow push button is on. No questions. That sounds good. All right, I have the flight controls, and we're just going to continue on our merry way. So let's turn down the sound. We haven't done any outside view shots, have we? So let's go ahead and turn down the external volume to like nothing, so we don't hurt everyone's ears here. Let's see what we got. Oh man, Orbix HD and a gray 319. That is absolute juice right there, my friends. Christian says, have you noticed since the last update on the 319, 321, if you're in managed descent and selected speed, it will pitch for speed like in an open descent? I have not really tried that. I'll have to take a look at it. But, Christian, what I will tell you is if you're in a managed descent mode and you do select speed, it pitches for speed like an open descent. So, are you saying that it's obeying the speed? I know this. When you take the airplane off of a managed descent, whether you managed speed and managed VNAV, and you go selected speed, it starts to get a little bit funky. So you may have to use speed brakes to get down to your speed. Remember that whole VNAV path is that the whole descent is pre-programmed. You have one section which is computed at idle thrust, and then after that first waypoint on the descent path, it's actually a geometric path pre-planned by the airplane, which can be a pain in the butt. There are ways to get out of that and recalculate the descent point, but a lot of that will be changing with FMS 2. But I know when you pull out into selected speed in that VNAV descent, it may have a hard time honoring your speed because it no longer has the flexibility that it was planning on with its econ descent window. So we'll take a look at it on this descent. But thanks for that. I haven't noticed anything crazy or abnormal yet, but I will take a look at it on this descent down here. Fubar says, thanks for the detailed briefing, V1. Great stuff. I appreciate it. Thanks, man. Gideon says, how you doing, V1? From Gideon at Nigeria. Wow. Well, welcome aboard, man. I'm doing good. Welcome aboard. Yeah, Sam says it will, the FS Labs pitches for the speed if it gets fast and pitch up. So once you select that speed, you're now, I think it's going to prioritize your selected speed, right? Because now it's prioritizing your speed mode, which is going to throw it off its VNAV profile. So I think I'm going to have to do a dedicated video on just the VNAV descent profile in the Airbus, because I think a lot of people don't really understand. There's real pilots that don't even understand the whole geometric pitch or geometric path versus the idle path, which is worlds different from how Boeing does it. In Boeing's defense, I think they have a little bit better vertical planning software in the Boeing design versus the Airbus design, but you just have to know how to manipulate it. That's all. Once you know how to manipulate the Airbus in the VNAV, it's totally fine. It will follow the speed instead. Yes. So Christian, that's accurate. So if you're in a VNAV path descent, right, and you've already planned your descent for, let's say, 330 knots, like was in my box here, and then I say, oh no, I got to slow to 250. So all I do is go up and I go select speed 250. What's going to happen is now it's going to go speed on elevator. That's an Embraer term, but it's going to start trying to pitch for that selected speed now. Consequently, that VNAV path is going to start dipping below the airplane. And it's going to pop up on your McDo. It's going to say more drag, or yeah, I think it's more drag, right? Then you're going to have to get the speed brakes out, and you can get it back on path, but you're going to have to use those speed brakes to get it back to where it needs to be. That's why it's important that you look at that descent profile in that FMS or in the McDo page there on the descent page, and make sure that your speed is what you're anticipating. Because if there's a huge difference, like if you're planning a 340 knot descent and then you start down, and then as soon as you start down, you want to start down at 210 knots, it's going to mess things up for you. I didn't know when you change the cost index, it will affect the climb on the Airbus, how to manage that in real life. Yeah, the cost index will, remember, the cost index looks at the entire flight. So it looks at the climb, looks at cruise, and looks at descent. In the real airplane anyway, it will change all three of those in the real airplane, the cost index. Now the cost index is typically fixed, so you put it in at the gate, and you don't really manipulate it unless you're trying to get home, or operational reasons that you need to manipulate the cost index. But if you want to climb a little bit faster, say you got a cost index of 99, Benny, which is, it happens sometimes if you're in a 321, so you're in a heavy 321 and you got a cost index of 99 to your destination, what I'll do is I'll just select speed, climb out, and I'll do, 300 knots, because you'll never get up to your cruise altitude at cost index 99 on a 321. And even a 320. The 319 is better, but it still lacks a little bit. Any cost index 99 that I get, I almost always use a selected speed climb out. Not necessarily for performance top end, but also I don't like flying 330 knots at 10,000 feet in a 319. I mean, these airplanes are old. They've been flying a lot. Like there's a lot of drag, a lot of resistance at low altitudes there. So and it's super loud. If you've ever done 340 or 330 at 10, 12,000 feet, it is loud. So I always 310, 320 climb out if I can sneak it. But 310, 300 is pretty much my juice for climb out selected speed. If my managed speed is higher than that, I'll just select speed, do more 300, 310. Dimitri says, did any of the channel painters set you up with the V1 livery for this bird with this mod? Negative, Dimitri. Miss Jungly, I'm looking at you. But yeah, I think we do need a V1 319 livery. I do have one from Ranger Rick, which I do need to, I should have thrown on today. I do have a fan-based, a fan livery that it was pretty good looking. Jeremy says, it's funny you say that Boeing has better descent planning because it complains it's slippery all the time. Well, I'm not saying that the airplane behaves better in a descent. I'm just saying that if you look at the way that the Boeing FMS will calculate a descent and an idle path all the way down, that's better economically than what the Airbus does, because the Airbus will create an idle path from the top of descent to that first waypoint, and then from there it plans a geometric path down, all the way down. So you're not going to be at thrust idle, and it's just it has the potential to create a slight headache for you if you don't fully understand the path. And from what I gather in Boeing is it can pretty much calculate an idle path from top of descent all the way down and meet the restrictions. It knows where to put the airplane when to start down. But I'm not saying that it does a better job. I think the 319 in VNAV, it does a great job. I mean, it may get a little fast on you, but the 319, I mean, use it and abuse it, man. I mean, get those speed brakes out, slow her down, speed her up, whatever you got to do, it will do it for you. The 319 is the airplane where you just you shouldn't have any hesitation at all about any VNAV restriction, because you can do it in the 319. You just got to use all the tools available to you. Christian says that's what I'm trying to sort. If it's actually the normal behavior, it's a bug. Yeah, that is what I explained to you, Christian, there, where if you got a high-speed pre-planned path and a high-speed descent, and then you slow it up, in real life, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to start pitching to slow down, and then that green descent dot is just going to drop right below you. So yeah, you got to get those speed brakes out. In a real-life scenario, if I had a real situation like that where it was a substantial change, I might actually recruise the airplane at that lower flight level, and then just use the speed brakes and get her down, and then kind of start over from the bottom. Or the best way to remedy that, if you find yourself getting high, Christian, pull for open descent. Just pull for open, set that top altitude. Let's say you're on a VNAV profile that has 10 descent constraints, and you're high from the very beginning. What I'll do is I'll then change my FCU altitude to that first altitude constraint, because you don't want to blow past it, right, and then miss your next one. So I'll change my FCU altitude to that first constraint, pull for open descent, full speed brakes, and in a 319 you got no problem. In a 320 you might have to turn the autopilot off to get full extension of the speed brakes. In a 321 it's kind of in the middle between a 320 there and a 319. It just kind of depends situationally. But that's another tool, right? So we got to talk tools. Open descent, that's a tool. Autopilot off if you're in a 320, that's another tool. So also just speed up 10 knots. Like if you have a 250 knot restriction, ATC gives me one, and I'm having a hard time getting down, I'll just bump the speed carrot to 250 to just get the airplane to nose over. Like sometimes you just need it to nose over for you. These older computers, these Celeron processors on the Airbus, sometimes you just need to give it a little juice. And by increasing that speed bug, it's like, oh, okay, I got to pitch down. Starts pitching down. Now I get the speed brakes out and roll that right back to 250, and you're good to go. All right, looks like we are getting ready to approach the top of descent here. Man, it's awesome outside down there. Look at this going. Oh, that's a cool shot. We got LA back there. Orbix HD is just absolute fire. Is the horizon curved in real life? Yes, it is. If you're up about 40,000 feet, you can see it. What headset do I use in this, like right now? Let me look. I think it's a Razer Kraken. In the airplane, I just use whatever. I think we have Telex something or other, isn't it? 850s, 750s? I don't even know. Whatever comes in the cockpit. I don't bring my own headset to the airplane. Don says, I flew a 319 last month for the first time in a long time, and this thing is so loud. They are loud, man. Yes, Elias, the Earth is curved, and you can definitely see it. Right about 40,000 feet is when you really start to see it. And, flying citations at 45,000 feet, you can really see the curvature of the Earth. How far are your spoilers allowed to be out on every? You can put them out whatever you need, Matt. Whatever you need. Just remember, in the 320, if your autopilot's on, you're only going to get half deployment. So that's why that 320 tends to be a little bit slippery. Dimitri, yeah, 55K. I've never been up to 55, but I imagine at 55 it really looks round. You can really, I think you can start to see it about 45 is when you can kind of, if it's a clear day, good, nice day, you can kind of see a curvature. I'll see if I think I have some pictures somewhere. Oh yeah, look at that juice shot right there. This is X-Plane 11, man. Looks as good or better than MS 2020 right now. I know, and I'm streaming at 720p. Imagine if you guys could see what I'm seeing right now. Okay, so that reminded me. How come this is not like huge news? That lighting video from X-Plane 11, the new lighting system that's coming out. I don't know why every single streamer isn't talking about it. I saw it on XP72 stream. That lighting video, if X-Plane will look like that with that lighting that's coming out, dude, that could be the death of FS 2020 until they get some new airplanes, because I was blown away by that new lighting preview. Completely blown away. I mean, you've got a lot of really good airplanes in X-Plane 11. FS 2020 has got a long way to go to catch up to what this offers. But, yeah, that new lighting preview looked amazing. We're getting pretty low on gas here. Who planned this gas? 4.1 on landing? Alright. That's pretty low. Pretty low. Start to get a little anxious. 37,000 feet cruise altitude for a 1 hour flight, 319 recommended. Hey, best way to figure out your recommended altitude, man, come here, prog page. Boom. It'll tell you. Recommended max, that's not your optimum. Optimum was 380 for us. We probably could have done 38. We were light enough. It'll depend on your weight. I stopped it at 31 because I thought, that seems awfully high for this flight, but we easily could have gone to 38. All right, let's go ahead and set the bottom. What did we say it was? We'll bottom out at 6,000. Now let's go ahead and 5 prior. We'll go ahead and push for managed descent mode. So that's our cue, 5 prior. This goes into below mode. And we are starting down. At this point, I'm going to analyze, seatbelt sign. It seems pretty smooth right now. We're starting to pick up a little light chop, so because of that, let's go ahead and leave it off for right now. It's a short flight. We'll let it off just for a few more minutes. Start our top of descent. We'll do an announcement now. I'll pull up the, pilot monitoring will make the descent announcement typically if the other pilot's flying. So at top of descent, making announcements along the lines of, folks on the flight deck here, we've got our initial descent down into San Diego. Just about 95 miles from the airport. Should have you on the ground here in about 20-25 minutes. Weather in San Diego, it's a beautiful morning, 72 degrees, partly cloudy skies, light winds out of the west there, about 5 miles an hour. Seatbelt sign will be coming on very soon. Once it does, it'll remain on for the duration of the flight. We do ask that you remain seated until the aircraft arrives safely at the gate. On behalf of this Dallas-based flight crew, we want to be the first to welcome you into San Diego. Thank you for choosing Spirit Airlines. There we go. There's your descent announcement. Then the cabin crew, that's kind of their trigger. They're going to start doing their cabin preparation. Brian Harris says X-Plane 11 will remain king with that lighting mod. I agree with you, Brian. I'm with you, dude. Yeah, I'm 100% with you, man. Jeremy says, do you prefer Bose A20s or David Clark's? Bose A20s. Bose A20s. I had Bose headsets, man. They're great headsets. My sim settings, I do not have an FAQ for that, D-Rub. Do you notice a pitching moment putting the speed brakes out? Yes, slightly, MGHD. Sam says, I love Microsoft Flight Sim, but it scares me that there's no way to have external flight models right now. I just hope PMDG 7.3 doesn't have that rudder and pitch Microsoft Flight Sim feel. Sam, I'm with you, dude. Here's the thing. It's FS 2020 has a long way to go. Now, the fly-by-wire mod is absolutely blowing everything out of the water. But as far as a complete sim, with everything else, other mod, I just don't, it's not there yet. And I'm just saying yet because it's a new sim platform. Let's give it years. Let's give it time. But when X-Plane gets that new lighting mod, jeez. I mean, imagine flying the 727, the Zebo, Airbuses, the TBM 900, King Air, with all the super high fidelity add-ons that we already have with that lighting model. I mean, yeah, you can't have global ortho like you do in FS 2020, but I mean, you've got tons of Orbix out there. It just, man, I don't know. I'm juiced up for that. Is the lighting mod coming to X-Plane 11 or will they save it for 12? I don't know, PD. I don't know. All right, here we go. We're on our descent. Out of 24,000 feet, I'm going to go ahead and turn the seatbelt sign on. It's kind of my trigger there, 24,000. I got that. I'm going to go ahead and start putting my shoulder harnesses on, start buckling up. Things are looking good here on the descent. We're -6 on the OAT on the TAT, so we'll go ahead and just preemptively turn on some engine anti-ice. Way! Has that always been there? The fault lights? They never used to have that modeled. At least I didn't think so, but that is correct. So when you turn on the engine anti-ice, the momentary fault indication is accurate to the real aircraft. That fault light will illuminate anytime the engine anti-ice valve or the wing anti-ice valve is in transit, or it is in a position that is not commanded by the push button. So obviously when we turn it on, it is in transit, so you're going to get fault lights. Very cool to see that little detail come to life. I don't know when that was added, but it used to not be modeled, but it is now. All right, we're at 22. Let's go ahead and look at our approach here real quick one more time. So I've gone over the whole dive and drive thing. We're going to plan to come in at 4,000 feet from Rebo, a 3-path. That's 2,000 feet times 3, 6 miles. Give me an extra mile. We'll call it 7. 7 miles prior to Rebo. Actually, we'll do 6.5 prior to Rebo. We will start an FPA 3 degree down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a Rebo here in my Jeep. There's multiple ways to do this, but I'm going to do it this way. What? R-E-E-B-O. What? Not in database. Well, that sucks. Okay, well, let's take it off the localizer. So now we got to do a little bit more math. So I want to start down 6 miles from Rebo.
Subscriber ahead. Look up.
Rebo is 6.5 from the loc. So that's 12.5. Give me another 0.5 for aircraft manipulation. We'll call it 13 miles prior to IUBR loc DME. So at 13 miles prior, which we should get DME down here when we get down here, we'll start our FPA 3 degree down. That way we're not diving, driving all the way down on these fixes. And then once we pass Rebo, we got to make sure we go 3.5 nose down all the way down to our final descent. Now this is all going to be by the wayside here with the new FM or what is it, FMS2 update that's coming. So in real life anyway. Is there a way to reset the box if you put your flight plan in and it looks all screwed up and you have to manually throw? DJ Thomas, the easiest way to do that, I don't know if it's modeled, to be honest with you. In real life, what we would do is you go to your data aircraft status page and you switch the AirX out. I don't want to do it in flight because if it works, then I'll be screwed. But if you just switch to the old cycle and then go to a new cycle, or in the real life, you're basically switching your FMS databases out, that will clear everything you put in the box. So that's the easiest real world method to do that there. All right, we're out of transition altitude. Let's get an updated weather in San Diego. 3008, so 18,000 feet is a trigger altitude. 18,000 feet, verify the signs are on. Let's do a approach checklist. Approach checklist. So briefing is complete. ECAM status is checked. Seatbelts are on. Minimums 730 feet set. Engine anti-ice 1 and 2 is coming off. Observe the fault lights. Off. And altimeters 3008 set. 3008 set, passing 16.4. Verify that on the FO side. Checks. Approach checklist is complete. And we are on our way down. I love that idle hum. Actually, I want to get back into there. Just this idle hum right here, the IAEs. That's so true to real life. Christian says, yeah, that is the fault since the last update. That's good to know. That's good to know, man. Anthony says, I think you remember me talking about it, maybe. I know the Flight Factors had it for a while. Miss Jungles, how you doing? How you doing, Miss Jungles? How's Mr. Jungley doing? Is he flying any more C-47? DJ Thomas says, thank you, sir. You don't need to call me sir, because I've done that a few times and just need a reset button. There you go, DJ. Yeah, man, that reset, that's the best way to do it, is flipping that database. We'll try it on, maybe we'll try it on the ground, see if it works. Another way to do it, DJ, I guess if that doesn't work in the sim, what you could do is clear out your secondary. So just delete anything you had of secondary. If you don't have anything in the secondary, put what you want to put in your primary in the secondary, and then just activate your secondary flight plan, and now you've basically copied that over. So that could be a workaround if that database doesn't work when you swap them out. Daviator. Please tell me your name is Dave. That's a good name, my friend. Yeah, finally get to catch a live stream. Welcome aboard, Dave. We're on a descent San Diego. It's going to be beautiful. We're going to do the localizer 2-7 approach. Again, if you want to see a full detailed explanation on how to calculate continuous descent point and the methods that you're going to see here on this approach, on my channel I have a full-blown localizer approach tutorial. I don't know how long it is, 20 minutes or something, where I literally just talk about every detail on the approach. Don't have time to do that on this stream here, but maybe you'll be able to pick something up. PD says if you need to lose altitude to land and are close to a runway, do you first slow down, descend, or mash down? So you're talking about in like an emergency descent? So the fastest way to lose altitude is going to be bury the speed knob, bury it all the way up in the red line, speed brakes out, and just hang on. Theoretically, the thrust management system will not overspeed the aircraft even if you bury the speed tape. That's a method that you use, like if you have a PFD failure, you got some type of latch failure and you can't see your PFDs. If you bury the speed knob and your auto thrust is still active, you can be rest assured that the auto thrust system is not going to speed you up into red line or your VNE or MMO. But yeah, 340 knots, the fastest speed that you can select is going to be the fastest way down with full speed brakes. Once you get to 10,000 feet, you can do more than 250 because you're an emergency aircraft, but if you're at 250, your gear is also an extremely fast way to get you down. All right, at or above 9,230 knots here, so she's having a little trouble slowing down. Not much, she'll do it. We'll help her out here with some Chinese speed brakes. Pop those suckers out. Listen. You hear that wind noise? That is freaking awesome. So BSS, that's why I think this 319 is the best BSS pack. When you extend those landing lights in real life in the Airbus at 10,000 feet here in the US, you can hear them. They're almost mini speed brakes, and he's got that modeled here on this BSS sound pack. I haven't noticed it on the 321. It's also less apparent in the 321 because you're further away from the wing. It's still there. You can still feel it. 319, you can really feel it. Dougal says dinner here. Have a good one. Dougal McTavish, thank you for stopping by, Dougal. Have a wonderful dinner, my friend. Have a good rest of your night. You take it easy. Dimitri's got the link for that V1 Loc approach tutorial. Thank you very much, Dimitri. There is the link, guys, if you want to check out this localizer in full-blown tutorial mode. Jungly is gearing up for midweek madness tonight. Ah, yeah, been streaming a bit of DCS. I've been seeing that, as well as start another aviation drawing. He's a busy boy. Oh, wow. Definitely busy, Jungles. All right, we're out of 9,000 feet. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and select speed, 230. I'm going to come to my McDo. I'm going to activate and confirm the approach phase. That is done. Now, one thing you got to be careful about, activating your approach phase at 10,000 feet. If you have any other speed restrictions, you're going to have to manually do them. So we have CLOM at 210 knots. We just got to make sure we comply with that. Other than that, out of 10,000 feet, the last trigger, pilot monitoring will make a PA. Flight attendants prepare for landing. That's their final. That's the final trigger for the flight attendants. So now they are taking their seats. Everything below 10 is locked up, put away, and we're ready to go. Travis says hit the like button for the engine. Yeah, hit the like button for these freaking engines. And this, the gray looks so good on this. I think my favorite, one of my top two favorites, this and the Old America West on the 319 with the IAE motors liveries. I like this gray color here. Nice weather reload there, by the way. Oh, but yeah, now we can see some of that Orbix HD. Gosh, it's this sim. FS 2020 looks really good, I know. This sim is still no slouch, especially when you're flying over Southern California. What do CI, CF, FF waypoints mean on an ILS approach plate? The Harmony. CI, FF. I'm not exactly sure what you're talking about. Let me look real quick. On an ILS approach plate, like, let's see, ILS 9. I mean, I know CF centerline fix. I don't. Do you have a specific approach? I'd have to see what approach you're looking at. I know, you know, there's intermediate fix, there's final approach fix, or an initial fix, but I'd have to see what approach play you're specifically talking about, my friend. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start rolling her back to 210 knots as well, because we have manual control of the speed now. Now you can see here, Christian, see I went 210, and look, the airplane's pitching up. Descent is changing to meet my vertical, to meet my selected speed here. And see that green descent diamond is starting to get a little bit below the path. So that is true to real life. We were on that VNAV profile, and now I'm messing with it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to crack the speed brakes to help him out. Crack a little speed brake here, 319. Little pitch down there. Just going to level at 6. And we're going to be right on speed where we need to be. So if that's what you're wondering about when you select that speed, that is accurate. See, we're a little off profile there because she's going to go to obey the speed that you selected. All right, we're VFE next, minus 10. Let's go ahead and drop out flaps 1. That is a sick shot right there. Man, I wish I had Starlink. You can see that in 720 or in 1080p, because what I'm looking at right now is borderline real life. That looks amazing. What clouds am I using? Believe it or not, default. Dimitri's on point. You sir, default clouds right now. Christian says, so they actually updated it as in real life? Before the update it wasn't like this? That's what confused me. You got it, man. There you go. No worries, man. Yeah, I don't really recall you know, what it looked like, what it did before. Maybe it just obeyed it before and didn't do it, but that's why I love streaming with you guys, because you guys bring up you guys notice things that I don't even pick up on, and then I have to look into it and I compare it to what really happens, like, oh yeah, that is what's happening. And you guys, it never ceases to amaze me what you guys pick up on and bring to the table. It really is good stuff. All right, there's our 6,000. I'm going to go ahead and continue descent to 5,000. We're going to simulate vectors from ATC, Spear Wings 357, descend and maintain 5,000. Descend and maintain 5,000 for Spear Wings 357. I'm going to go ahead and turn on terrain mode. This is a mountainous terrain airport as well, so whenever you're flying a mountainous terrain and there's weather, you're going to have one person with the weather radar and one person with the terrain radar. Typically speaking, the pilot flying will display the terrain. Pilot monitoring will have weather displayed. So we'll leave Phantom 320 over there with his weather display on, even though there's really not any weather. In a day VFR conditions or just daytime when you know there's no weather, you might both run terrain mode. But if you're at night in the mountains, there's a chance there could be thunderstorms out there. One guy's always going to have his weather on, one guy's always going to have his terrain on during the approach. All right, we're at 210 knots. I'm going to go ahead and bring it back to 180 knots. Spear Wings 357, reduce speed, maintain 180 knots. Maintain 180 knots for Spear Wings 357. Is Orbix heavy on frame rate? Not bad, man. I'm doing 51 FPS right now, so while streaming. Speed out, level 5,000. What I'm going to do is I'm going to intentionally fly myself just a little bit left. Spear Wings 357, fly heading 080. 080, Spear Wings 357. We're going to go past Lindy, and then we're going to come back around. All right, so there's our DME. We're 16.9. Remember, at 4,000 feet, we want it to be at our 12 miles from Rebo before we start down. Let's go VFE next, minus 10, flaps 2. Ian Boy, congratulations, man. Congratulations on completing high school. Welcome to the live stream, my friend. Glad to have you here. Spear wings 357, turn right. This is a bad vector. Turn right, direct Lindy. Cross Lindy at 5,000. Cleared, localizer, 27 approach. Alright, maintain 5,000. Cross Lindy at 5,000 feet. Cleared to localizer, 27 approach for Spear wings 357. Runway turn on light comes on. We're cleared approach. Coming all the way back around. After Lindy, we're going to descend to 4,000 feet. And that's what we talked about at 4,000 feet. Over Vida, we're actually 14 miles out, so we can technically hold that 4,000 feet till about 12.5, is right? Because 6 is 12.5 plus 0.5 is 13. So at 13 mile DME, that's when we're going to start our 3-degree path down here. Oh man, look at that juice. Thank you for the subscribe, Jonathan. Appreciate it. Ian Boy, now that you're done with high school, you can look forward to doing some nice flight simming. That's awesome, man. Congratulations, dude. That really is a good feeling to be done. I love this, like this IA engine mod here. Like, I mean, you got the slats coming right on both sides of that pylon. Just looks so juice. All right, there's Lindy at 5. I'm gonna go ahead and descend and maintain 4,000 feet. Thrust idle, open descent. All right, so on this approach, you know, we always talk about that 2,000 feet above touchdown, flaps 280 knots. Because we're on that localizer, I may have to adjust that just a little bit, but we're already at flaps 2180, so I think we're going to be just fine. I'll probably manage the speed a little bit before because I'd rather be a little bit early anytime I'm doing an FPA strategy here. This is what's called to as the FPA strategy. I like to be a little bit ahead of the airplane instead of right on or slightly behind. So it's always better to be a little bit ahead. You can always speed up, much harder to slow down. All right, here we go. We're 180 knots, 4,000 feet. I will be ignoring the chat now. I'm gonna get my views set up here. Speed alt star. DME is 14.8. We're out star, so I'm going to set Rebo 2000. $2,000 is set, and I'm going to go, there's 13.8 from IUBR. We're going to do a vertical speed down, and since I'm sitting right at that flap speed, I'm going to cheat here. I'm going to go 10 knots slower. All right, track FPA mode, 3 degrees. Down we go. We're looking across Rebo at 2,000 now. You could see, I'm going to pump these screens out here. You see my blue level off stick at Rebo at 2,000? That means I'm right on it. If this stick starts to get past Rebo, I'm going to have to increase my FPA just a little bit so I can bring that descent stick. And I kind of like to be just a hair in front. So I'm going to go 3.2. You see how it moved that blue stick on this side of Rebo intersection? So now I know that, all right, I'm looking good. You always want it to be just right on top of it or just maybe one smidgen before it, but you don't want to be below 2,000 feet because then that's a bust. If you bust it by 50 feet, you know, you fail your check ride. But as we configure the aircraft, what's going to happen is it's going to balloon. Spear wings 357, contact tower. Tower, Spear wings 357, localizer 27. Spear 357, runway 27, cleared to land. 27, clear to land, Spear wings 357. Alright, so I'm going to begin the managing phase. Well, see, this is why I cheated that 10 knots, because I can go flaps 3 now if I need it. If I left this at 180 with our current, we'd be right under that VFE next, which I like to give myself a little buffer. Alright, here comes 2,000 feet. Again, FPA strategy, I'd rather be ahead than behind, so probably 2,100 feet. Touchdown zone elevation is 17 feet. We're looking off our MSL altitude here. All right, what I want to do now is spin this up out of the way so it doesn't capture. See how I spun it up? If I left it at 2,000, we'd go alt star. I'm going to set 7,000 for a go-around. Here comes 2,000 feet above touchdown. Runway's in sight, but we're going to continue to fly the approach. We're going to go gear down. Manage speed. I'm sorry, manage speed first. Gear down. There's Rebo. 2,000 check. Right on the money. All right, so now we're going to go flaps 3. And this is a 3.5 degree path, right? So now I'm going to go ahead and go 3.5, and I'm going to just leave it because it's 3.5 inside of Rebo. Runway's in sight, but we're going to continue flying the Loke. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off just because I can see. And VFE next, minus 10, flaps full. Landing checklist when able. We'll go up here, ding the flight attendants. We're right on it there. We're a little bit low, so I'm going to shallow it out. Try to put that green dot right below, right on that first yellow line there, but I mean, we're pretty much right on it. We can see the runway. Let's do a landing checklist. Cabin crew advised, auto thrust, speed, ECAM memo, landing all green. Auto brakes are off, landing checklist is complete. We are cleared to land, 1,000 feet stable, all checklists complete, and the aircraft is configured to land. All right, from here I'm gonna hand flyer in. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go autopilot off, flight director's off. We already have the bird up. Give me the bird in chat. Clear to land. Now from here on out, it's just a normal landing. That is your localizer 27 approach. I'm looking at the Pappies now. I might drag this in 3 red because I want to do cinematic purposes for replay. So, of course, real life, bring it in 2 whites, 2 reds. I'm going to do cinematic replay here.
500.
Since our frames seem to be decent, we're going to do a cinematic replay.
400.
We'll try to hold 3 reds. We're holding 3 reds, 1 right now. Down to land, clear to land. Here we go. A little hazy in San Diego this morning.
300.
This is BSS sound, DB.
200.
So if you see where that green descent donut is on my PFD, that's kind of where you want it when you're coming in on that Loke. Right about there would be the ideal spot. We're right over the parking garage for replay mode. Now I can correct a little bit to the left.
100.
Big displace threshold.
50. 40. 30. 20. Retard. 10. 5.
Spoilers. Ooh, a little bit floaty there towards the end. Reverse screen, desailing. We caught that last marker. 70 knots, idle, manual braking. Manual braking the whole time. 2 feet left to center line. 295. Did the other landing rate pop up? Because I've been getting like 100 differences. This one, 295, we'll see. Analyze in replay mode. But 33 feet above threshold, San Diego, pretty normal, 30 feet there. And -2 from center line. I'll take it. I definitely know we were a little bit, just a tad long, but 319, I'm not super worried about it. All right, let's go ahead and chrono on so we get our cooldown time. And we're going to taxi straight in here. So now I'm going to do my flow. My flow is speed brake down and the lights. So strobe auto, wing off. All these lights come off. Taxi light stays on. And Phantom 320's flow, he's got speed brakes, flaps, transponder mode. And we're going to continue to taxi in here. You know, we're going to go straight all the way back. Now, we have to wait for a 3-minute cooldown in real life because we use full reverse. All right, I got my marshaller. Light comes off.
Subscriber ahead. Look up.
I think I pushed it down to get that last marker. Yeah, Ranger Rick, that's 100% why. I gave up trying to hold it off.
Subscriber ahead. Look up.
I wanted to get that last touchdown marker. Alright, that was an interesting marshalling job. Brake set. So, wait for 3-minute cooldown. By that time, external power is probably going to be available. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go external power. This is my shutdown flow. External power on. Engine 2. Seat belts. Engine 1. Waiting for 5%, and then we'll kill the beacon light. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to San Diego. Anthony says, I get jealous of your landing plugin. There was a link for it. It's pretty old at this point. I'm not even so sure how accurate the touchdown VSIs are anymore because I use like 3 different ones sometimes, and they're all different by 100 plus feet. But I stick with this one, number one, because I hate that thing flashing in front of my eyes when I touch down. But like you said, I'm always looking for that threshold crossing height and my center line there on, on touchdown. So that's why I really like that one. But yeah, I just don't like how it pops up right in your face either. But there should have been another landing rate from Fly Live. I guess that one didn't pop up, huh? That's unfortunate. All right, so 5% beacon light comes off. And then from here, it's actually the FO's flow. He's going to come up top. Fuel pumps. He's going to get those off. He's going to come down here, reset this. Chrono. Reset if you can. Stand by on that. And print our times off. And now that the slides are disarmed, that is my trigger. Let's do a parking checklist. Slides disarmed. Engines off. Seatbelts off. Exterior lights set. Ice protection off. Yellow electric pumps off. Engines off. Park brake set. Something like that. He reads it out to me. I call it out. And that's it. Parking checklist complete. We are here. Just like that. So what I'm going to do is go replay mode. We're going to kill that. And we're going to go into the replay, see what we did there. I just want to see where we touched down. Yeah, we nabbed that last one. That's why we had a 100-footer. Yeah, see, we're 2 feet off center line. But we're in the zone, a little long, no doubt about it. Let's back it up. Okay, wow, wow. That's a little far. Let's watch this come on down here. I find the 2 landing rate apps are often a lot different. The other rate did pop up. It was 261. All right, cool. Oh, I'm glad it popped up then. It wasn't popping up before. If Pax can walk off the plane unaided, then it was a good landing rate. All right, we're off to the DoubleTree to get some cookies. Which script is that for the landing rate? I don't even remember, man. I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure it's designed by Holger Deutsch on the forums. But yeah, I like this one, 2 feet. So sometimes the threshold crossing height is off because it depends on the scenery you have and if there's a displaced threshold. But generally, it's right on. I think San Diego is an exception where I'm not sure if it's measuring from the right threshold. It seemed about right though. I think we were about 30 feet when we crossed the actual threshold. Gives you G loading, and of course your VSI. But let's watch a few more of these replays. We'll watch the Florence kit here on the ailerons pop up. Fubar says, thanks for the great stream, V1. Always enjoy them. Thank you so much, Fubar. Thanks for stopping by. 777 says, I missed your stream. No worries, man. There'll be another one. Guys, I'm going to try to stream tomorrow. I'm going to try to stream tomorrow as well. So make sure your notifications are on if you want to see more content. There we go. So that one says 295. See how it's changing? But let's see. There's our spoiler-ons. Spoiler-ons. Florence kit. All right, we're going to watch a few more here. I want to go right here. We're going to go flyby view. I'm going to go to the garage. We're going to get the music playing. If you've never been on this garage in real life, it's absolutely amazing. I don't know if you can even do it anymore. We'll listen to one flyby here without music. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? Here we go. Volume externals need to come up. Let's listen to that flyby one more time. In real life, you can actually hear the wingtip vortices snap off the wings here. Oh, that's awesome. We'll watch it go down. Nice, long displaced threshold. I think maybe we were a little fast. I'm not sure. Let's see. What does the cockpit say?
30.
Right on speed.
20.
Just started flaring a little late or early, maybe. Oh, well, that looked like a pretty good touchdown to me. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that. All right, guys. Mods, thank you so much for modding the channel, being here with me today. Sponsors, all the Team Green, all my private pilots, commercial pilots, thank you. I can't thank you enough for supporting the channel. Really appreciate it. Donations, Andre Henry, Brand, Cool, everyone else, the gentleman who asked about my grades. Thank you so much for your donations and support on the channel. Everyone else hanging out in chat, I love you guys just as much. Please hit the like button for me on the way out. Oh, a little balloon there, that's what that was. But I'll take it for San Diego, 100% I'll take that. Until next time, guys, I hope you stay safe, stay healthy. I'm V1. See ya!